The Pulsar brand name has cemented itself in the hearts and minds of the Indian biker. What started 20 years ago with the first Pulsar 180 has blossomed over 6 generations of Pulsars, and a couple of decades of R&D has led us to this, the Bajaj Pulsar N250 and F250. Built from the ground up, every component on this motorcycle, apart from the LED indicators, is new. Let's start with the engine. The 249cc single-cylinder engine is air and oil cooled, and it's now a stress member of the chassis to give the bike more rigidity, which often translates to better handling. But such an engine cannot be rubber mounted, so they had to reduce the vibrations on the piston level. They did that by creating a ribbed piston, which Bajaj claims refines the engine to the next level, something we have to test out. While going all aggressive with the rigid frame, Bajaj didn't forget about the Indian riders. Though a vertical engine would have been optimal for the chassis, they slanted it 10 degrees towards the front from the vertical axis to achieve a lower seat height of 795mm, which is a boon for shorter riders. The BS6 regulations couldn't be met with their patented triple spark technology, so they reverted back to twin spark while maintaining the advantages of triple spark. At this point, you might be thinking air cooling, 5 gears and twin spark is the new generation of Pulsar motorcycles, a step back from Pulsar 200 NS, which had a 6-speed transmission and liquid cooling 10 years ago. The truth is, the Pulsar brand has bifurcated into two parts. On one side, there will be premium Pulsars that share major components with KTMs, and the other side, Bajaj will have their cost-effective Pulsars from their own R&D. The new Pulsar Twins will be the flagship of this segment, and their technological advancements will trickle down to the Pulsar 150, 135 and the NS 125. The new fairing looks impressive on both the bikes. Fit and finish and paint quality has improved, though there were some panel gaps, but I feel I'm nitpicking at this point. Bajaj has moved away from the ABS plastic to a new type of glass-fill nylon polymer, which not only reduces weight but also gives a lot more sturdiness to the fairing material. This not only means that the new fairing is stronger and can resist braking under impact, but also reduces internal components greatly. For example, the previous Pulsar 220 front fairing was made with 30 components and the new one just takes 5. Let that sink in for a moment. The rear tire hugger also doesn't require an internal steel bar any longer. The plastic is strong enough. They have a new alloy for the wheels as well that saves overall 1 kg from the curb weight. The bikes both have LED projector headlamps, but they have been styled quite differently to give a distinct aesthetic to the motorcycles and to separate them. I personally liked the styling on the N250, how the body panels look part of a monolithic unit, how well they fit together. Let me know in the comment section below which styling you like, N250 or F250. MRF has developed an all-new grippier compound for these Pulsars, and the thinner tire sizes mean they can directly fit into the smaller size Pulsars once they can mass produce these tires. The suspension setup along with the tires has been tuned for maximum rider comfort. The motorcycles do have a lot of promise on paper, and that is why we had to test it out on track. Okay. The 142 is the limit I can go here. We got a short track riding opportunity, and I chose this bike because this has a front fairing, so I was expecting the front end feel to be a little bit more. Brakes are working really nice, and the bike has a tendency to drop in quite quick it's flickable, but at the same time it's kind of like an understeer, so the bike is dropping in very quickly. And when I was entering the corners, I was feeling that maybe I'll go wide on the exit, but that's not happening. Actually, I had a lot more room to push, so the bike really has a lot more capabilities than I thought initially it would be. In the later laps, I started going a little bit faster, but before I could do more on this bike, we kind of run out of time because only 4 laps were there. But what I personally feel is that you can push this bike a lot once you get familiar with it, and the engine being used as a stress member, it is way more rigid and does not feel like the previous generation of Pulsars. If something, it feels much more like the Dukes that I'm more used to riding, so that makes it really nice. But the front end suspension is softer, it's made for the street. On track, while I was approaching the corners, if I was going late braking on it, the front end dive was a little bit too much. So in the later laps, what I was trying to do is trying to get my braking in early, so that not to load up the front suspension, and that way I could be smoother and get even a little bit more corner speed. Top speed check, we did about 142 kilometers on the straight, and that we got about 2 times. So very predictable bike there. Fifth gear is sufficient. I did not expect myself to say that. I prefer having 6th gear on most of the 250cc motorcycles, but due to the taller gearing ratio, I would say that on the top end the 5th gear is really tall, so that is your cruising gear. I would have, however, liked to test out to 0 to 100 timings, because I feel that a taller gearing might affect the 0 to 100 and the acceleration might be a little slower, but I haven't tested it yet, so that's what we will do now. We'll As the 0 to 100 timing suggests, the bikes are quite quick. The 44 teeth rear sprocket ensures good acceleration, and the tall 5th gear means you can cruise at 120 km per hour all day without stressing the engine. However, it does sacrifice on the top speed, and I feel Bajaj doesn't want to go north of 150 km per hour on a motorcycle focused on street and touring use. During the testing on the higher revs, I could feel no vibrations, so Bajaj's claiming of refining the engine is definitely true. ARAI certified mileage is 39 km per liter, but actual street use mileage may vary.
The agility, the front end is very flickable. At the same time, I don't really feel that it's wobbly. So it's similar to the Duke 200. The foot pegs are rear set as well, which, I mean, as a Duke 390 user, I feel right at home, but I would say that even the Duke 390 does not have such lower handlebars. Now we've got some, whoa, as usual the front suspension is softer, so it really went over that bump very smoothly. They have increased a lot of speed breakers. Jumping over them probably should not be doing that, but this is the only way I can understand how the motorcycle feels. And the brakes, we're testing out the brakes since we are doing a lot of hard braking, and like I was saying, the bike's very flickable. These are unknown roads for me, so whatever I'm doing is a bit risky. I do not condone you to do such behavior. What I can tell you is the front is one of the easiest bikes to quickly change lanes, and you open up the throttle, you feel there's enough power to take you anywhere, and this is gonna be leading into some hooligan riding by a lot of riders. I can already see that this is way different than what Pulsars used to be. They used to have this very comfortable sitting posture, very nice kind of like a beginner friendly, smoother power delivery. Here the power comes in very linear, but the throttle response is perfectly there. It's responding to my throttle input so well that I am feeling like I'm riding a very sporty naked bike and not a relaxed commuter, as even the NS, which was having 6 gears, liquid cooling, basically a Duke 200 engine slightly detuned, but even that did not have so much sporty performance. Brakes are amazing. These are new brakes, so I don't know what will happen to them in a year. Some brakes do have a tendency to fade up, but I can only tell you what is right now, and right now the braking performance is phenomenal. I was a bit apprehensive since they wanted this to be a very budget oriented bike, and they've cut costs in certain places like eliminating the Bluetooth feature, but I feel those are more like fancy features. Cutting down on the single channel ABS did not sit well with me, but like they've said that if there's enough requirement or feedback from the customers, they will introduce a dual channel ABS version. And these bikes get their refreshes after a while of being on road. Probably a couple of years down the line, this will get the dual channel ABS. Apart from that, everything is pretty nice. 130 section rear tire on a 250cc motorcycle. I am gonna say that whatever the front tire is, I'm fine with it, but the rear tire needs to be 140, and I feel the quicker they go with it is the better for us. Again, when I see a sharp corner on this bike, I am like, no, I'm too fast and I'm gonna ride it wide. But then when I actually put the corner through the bike, I actually end up getting narrow on the exit and not wide on the exit, which means this bike actually can be pushed way further than I am actually doing it. So much reminds me of the Duke 200. I think even the power figures are nearby, because Duke 200 also has 25 horsepower. This is 24.1 at 8750 RPM, 8750 RPM, about 21 and a half Newton meters of torque at 6,500 RPM, and it's a very very torquey engine, and the power band, the rev band is very much there. I mean, you don't really feel you're running out of power, not with this bike. We have got an analog digital console, and they're calling it an infinity console because it kind of has that feeling like the edge to edge display. Though now, right now that I'm looking into it, it's just edge to edge as a more of a show off thing, because inside the display is not so edge to edge. But at the first glance itself, this looks really premium, and this digital area right now contains a lot of information like the gear position indicator, the clock, fuel gauge, and it also has a range, like it's 120 kilometers of range left. Speedometer, obviously right now it's off because we had turned off. Odometers there, and you have these to go into, say, some trip meters and all that. And there is a gear shift indicator as well. Engine's very rev happy engine, and on the track, though I did once hit the limiter, at least on the street I haven't hit the limiter that much.
We've been riding the Bajaj F250 and the N250 all day. Early morning we started with the F250, we took it out on track. I was really surprised how agile and quickly the motorcycle was falling into the corners. There's a lot of mid-corner stability as well. You're moving out of the corner exit, you can get on the throttle quite early. So those things are always there and all are positive. Later in the day we took the N250 out on some really congested highways, and there we had speed breakers. We had to move from 100 kilometers per hour speed to 25 kilometers per hour speed. That kind of heartbreaking. Even there the front discs performed perfectly. The naked bike, it is very flickable in low speed without making the front end wobbly, and even in higher speed 80 kilometers per hour lane changing was giving me a lot of confidence, and it's a really nice bike to flick through even in top speed or even in a lower speeds. This is no longer a friendly, soft, relaxed commuter kind of a bike. The
sitting posture on the naked bike is actually more aggressive than on the faired bike, and the front and rear is very well aligned while you're doing cornering. It doesn't really move around that much. The stiffness is just mind boggling here. Hard to find faults with the bike with the testing we did today, apart from, like I said, the suspension. Yeah, features list, this bike doesn't get much, but provided the price that they are offering it at, I cannot really complain. The only thing that does leave me a little bit wanting is a single channel ABS. I know that customers may be happy with it, but it is the brand's responsibility to go the safer route, because customers may not know what is the best thing for safety. Another thing is the 130 section rear tire. I feel they've done it for better flickability and better mileage, but I personally feel even motorcycles in the 150cc segment are getting 140 section rear tires. Even the Pulsar RS200 and the NS200 have a wider 140 tire. But this doesn't affect the handling in any way. I would not say that on track we faced any issues, or even in high speed handling. This bike is doing 142 kilometers top speed. Even there, stability wasn't an issue. The only thing is, on bad roads, I want the bike to have a wider tires for a better contact patch, because that's the condition of Indian roads. The suspension, while it was not so good on this track under hard braking, on city hard braking levels you just don't feel the front end dive so much, and over bad patches of road the bike ride quality is really plush. It absorbs the bumps really well, perfect for Indian road conditions. The pillion seat is wide, though we have not ridden pillion yet. I could say that the seat comfort will be there, and the rider seat again wide on the rear side, giving you a lot of support under your butt. At the same time, the front end is narrow, so the shorter riders will get good reach, and I'm 5 feet 8, so I don't really mind. But the 795mm seat height with the narrower front side of the seat will make it very comfortable for even some 5 feet 5 inches or 5 feet 4 inches rider. So concluding this review, I would say that at 1.4 lakh rupees, this is the maximum performance you can get. Motorcycle prices have gone up in the previous years by a lot. The Duke 200 used to be 1.4 lakhs or 1.5 lakhs, is now close to 2 lakhs. So that affordable performance thing was kind of missing from the Indian segment, and the Bajaj Pulsars are bringing them back. So the F250 and the N250 are the most affordable high performance bikes in the Indian market today.